Hey Shannon, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Brett. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Shannon, if you could just give the listeners an idea of who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah. Well, Brett, I was born into a real estate family. If you've read Robert Kiyosaki's Little Purple Book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I grew up with Rich Dad, right? Not the one that looked rich, the one that actually was. And my parents retired at 50 with cash flow from building real estate. My mother was a third generation real estate broker. My father was a builder and a developer. And I spent all my free time working as an indentured servant on the construction sites and keeping our house quote unquote realtor perfect, because you never knew when my parents were going to sell the house and we'd be homeless. But that was my growing up, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. But as I got into my late teens and my early 20s, and I began to experience life, I began to see where trading time for money wasn't going to get me anywhere. And I started my first business in 1996. 96, when my son was born. And I began to build residential houses. I then realized I didn't like homeowners, and so I gravitated toward the commercial field. Done everything from police stations to city halls, medical facilities, gymnasiums, schools, fire stations, and every time I did that, industrial complexes, whatever I did, I saw that when I was done building it, I was done making money from that person, right? So at the end of the day, I was not creating an income stream. I was trading my time for dollars, even though at a higher level as a business owner. And I began to see where the people that I was building for were the ones that were actually building a long-term wealth. They were building an income stream that would function whether or not they showed up to work today or not. And I watched my parents that same year in 2001 retire and choose the life they wanted, not based on how they had to go earn their money. And so I pulled all my resources together. I cobbled everything I had, and I built an industrial complex where two of the original tenants are still in the buildings today. And that's been 22 years. Those buildings are paid off. They've created a cash flow stream. And that was really kind of the evolution for me for the next step, to go from a for-hire general contractor more to a developer. I started working with single check writers, and I realized at that point where I was going, very few people in a single check writer position could follow me. And so I began the journey of syndicating capital and figuring that out. But with 25 years of experience building, that part wasn't a problem. Managing, turning around, renovating, all of that stuff was very, very well inside my wheelhouse. And over the last 3.5 years, we've syndicated about 60 million in capital. We returned about 32 million to our investors.
Let's talk a little bit from the beginning piece of what does that mean when you say you're generating tax-free passive income or helping others do that?
Well, let's just start real quick with what is active and what is passive, right? So I am active in the real estate game, right? My daily activities are about creating income, about creating opportunities, building buildings, active ownership, active management. And people can do that. According to the IRS, there's a couple of tests. The biggest one is that you have to spend about 750 hours annually, not about, but more than 750 hours annually. And so about 70 hours each month, you need to be involved in the activities of real estate, you directly. By doing that, that allows you to use depreciation and other things available for tax benefit in real estate against your active income. So if my construction company makes $1 million this year and I go out and buy a $3 million apartment complex and I depreciate 60% of that through bonus depreciation, I'm able to wipe out all of my active income, right? That's because I'm a real estate professional. If your listeners who are typically engaged in other things, being a doctor, being a lawyer, whatever it is, their activity is not in real estate. So they're able to use those losses against passive income because they are passive in that activity. It's not their primary focus. which means that they can take that same depreciation and use it against the passive income that comes in. So they bought that same apartment complex for $3 million. There's $1.5 million in depreciation that they can take. They have to take it against the rents that are coming in, not against their primary income as a doctor or a lawyer or things like that. And so there's different ways that you can look at that. Well, and I think what happens, I've seen it a lot, right? Because I deal with quite a few physicians that are on 45 plus, right? They're really solidly in their money-making years, and all of the reasons why they wanted to go with medicine and go into medicine are long gone.
Mm-hmm.
The long hours have added up. The continuing changing HIPAA regulations and everything that goes into it has beat the passion right out of them,
mm-hmm.
And they're sitting here going, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's lucrative, but if I could do anything other than this, I would. Mm-hmm. And yet I'm here, I'm in this money-making machine that generates quite a bit of income. I can't really go do anything else because of the money that I'm making, but I don't love it anymore. And that's where this passive income thing allows you to get back to a place where maybe what you're wanting to do is do this in a third world country, do this with a nonprofit, do this for a certain group of people that need your specialty and need your service, can't necessarily afford it. And this allows you to walk away from that. It allows you to spend time with your kids. It allows you to spend time with your family. And a lot of the times we do things based on one set of thought processes that 10, 15, 20 years later, we realize life is very different than we had imagined. And so passive income is awesome for that. A lot of us find ourselves in a position where we started out in life with these idealistic goals. You see the kids coming out of med school and you see the people that have been practicing for 15 years. There's a different look in their eye, right? I mean, the kid coming out of med school, they got a sparkle, they got a shine, they got vigor, they're ready to go. But what if you could always have a backup plan? What if you could always have something? I mean, we talk about the job taking it out of you, but where is your ability to compensate should an emergency happen? Should your parents need you full-time, or should your spouse need you full-time, or you have a child that has needs that would require you to do something different? If we're built the way that a lot of us built our income stream, there's only a single source for that. The funny thing is, it says that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, right? So if one dries up or slows down or whatever, they're not changing their lifestyle because they're balanced. They have other output. They have other options. They also have the leverage of using other people's outputs and efforts to make the money. The question becomes, do you want to deal with finding the property, buying the property, closing on the property, getting the loan on the property, getting the property manager on the property, dealing with all the things that go along with that? Or do you want to partner with someone who that is their goal, that is their job, and is what they do on a professional level? Very similar to how doctors recommend to specialists, this is kind of the same thing.